Promote a culture of inclusion, supercharge your communication, and unleash the full potential of your teams and leaders with the Inclusive Handbook collection from the Diversity Movement. As part of the collection, I wrote the Inclusive Leadership Handbook with Kurt Merriweather to empower leaders with tools needed to cultivate a culture that fosters creativity, innovation, and employee engagement. Through strategies, exercises, and self-reflection, leaders at all levels can enhance their effectiveness. Learn more at thediversitymovement.com/store. Use code HOL at checkout for 25% of your first order.
The fear is real. The fear of it is very real. So if you as a business leader ignore talking about it, ignore thinking about it, don't build out a strategy to where people know how they fit into it, I'm here to tell you they're going back into a shell and you're not getting good information about how it could actually work best in your organization.
Welcome to High Octane Leadership with Donald Thompson. This season, we're diving deeper with more solo episodes, where I'll share the experiences that have led to recognition by EY, Forbes, Fast Company, and others. Not as a boast, but as milestones on my entrepreneurial path. From growing multi-million-dollar firms to successful business exits and building high-performance teams with a global perspective. I'll reveal the insights and strategies from my journey and share them with you so that we can win together. Alongside these solo episodes, we'll have industry visionaries and thought leaders, and we'll explore effective leadership. Ready to empower your leadership journey with real success stories? Let's embark on this transformational journey together.
I'm going to do a little background on myself. 2 reasons. Number one, this isn't the brag fest. This isn't my ego therapy thing, but I do want to give you some reasons of why you might want to pay attention. And I think that's important when you come to an event. How can I give you something that you can take away and your business can be better tomorrow? You can be more productive tomorrow. And so I have an entrepreneurial background. I was employee number 7 at a small startup in Raleigh, North Carolina called iCubed. The name of the company was Integrated Industrial Information, right? So as a salesperson, think about saying that all day, every day on the phone. Remember we used to make phone calls? Anybody in here, like you used to dial for dollars, right? So we went by iCubed. It spun out of NC State. The founder, Grant Willard, good friend of mine, actually talked to him this morning, and I'll chat about that in a minute. But I was employee number 7. And I started my professional career in business development. Before then, I had a lot of different types of jobs as I found my right. The reason I share that is I was a part of a team that grew, and ultimately, after working and being mentored by Grant for over a decade, part of our company was acquired by Adobe Systems out of San Jose. And this was about 2005. And I remember sitting with Grant in a little pizza shop off of Mission Valley Road near NC State campus. And this was my opportunity. I was going to become, at 36, the CEO of the spin-out company because they didn't want our engineering services business. So there's about 16 of us that needed a home. And Grant looked at selling that part of the business as well. And then he said to me, over a cup of coffee, he said, would you like to buy the balance of the business? And I was like, I would absolutely love to do this. Couple problems. I have no money. Second problem, I have no money. I said, so if you're going to sell it to me, no money down, I'm your guy, right? Like I'm your man, right? And he goes, yeah, that's what I was thinking. And I was like, okay, what now? And so Grant held the note to that business, and we bought that business, about 16 of us, out of the profits of that business, and we paid it back over the first 3 years. The reason I tell you that is that as we get into technology and different things, everybody's door is opened by someone. Now, I ran through that door. I take full credit for my effort and expertise that I developed. But somebody had an open door of opportunity that I had the opportunity to be a part of. And so we grew that company from 16 folks to about 140 people. And we exited in 2014 to a company called KPIT out of India. And again, it's kind of weird, but cool. They only wanted the engineering services part of our business. And the thing about big companies, they don't really hear you. I said, there's a small part of the company in marketing technology that we're doing some cool stuff with Adobe. We don't care. We don't want that. Stop talking to us about this. We only want the business you're running that has clients like John Deere, Raytheon, Boeing, et cetera. And I was like, all right, cool. And so we sold them that part of the business, and we spun out a firm here locally called ICI Digital. that my good friend Greg Boone became the CEO. I was the board chair. We grew that business from 15 people to another 100 folks and exited that business to Behringer Capital. And ultimately, they exited that to Emphasis. My point saying is that throughout all of these successes, technology was changing. And one of the things I've had to learn in my career, I'm going to bring it back to what we're talking about with AI, is things are always evolving, and you have to make the mental model mind shift, if you will, if you're going to follow, lead, or get run over. And AI is a really inflection point about these decisions, right? And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some of the things I'm seeing why. The other thing that occurred during this time is I invested in a small boutique marketing firm called Walk West. And in fact, I'm the board chair there. Our offices are right across the street in the 5th and 3rd building, right by our friends over there. But invested in that business at $300,000 when that's the revenue of the business. And it's now grown into a multiple Inc. 5000 winner, multi-million-dollar digital agency right here in your backyard. One of the things we're doing at Walk West, and I'm going to bring it back to today's point, is every single employee in the business is going through AI training right now. 98% of the staff already has their first level AI training. We already know that that business will be disrupted. So we have to disrupt ourselves first so that we can do it on the offense and not just sit back, so to speak, right, and let things happen to us. So we're either opportunistic or we're really afraid because we're deep enough in technology where we can kind of see what's coming. And so that's on the marketing, the communication, the PR, the comm side. My day job, if you will, and I do a lot of stuff. If you look at my LinkedIn and different things, people ask all the time, it's like, Don, how do you get it all done? I said, I don't. I'm responsible for a lot, but I do very little. And so don't worry about my sleep or anything like that. It all works out. My claim to fame is working with, finding, and recruiting really, really talented folks. I know that we have a very well-renowned coach that's following me, and so I'm glad that I'm going first. And so I'll get those things, Coach Davis. But I'm the son of a football coach, is the last thing that I'll tell you. So I grew up knowing that winning and losing mattered. I didn't grow up where everybody got a trophy. I grew up in a loving family. My dad was a football coach. He coached at Carolina during Mac Brown's first tenure, coached at the University of Pittsburgh, all the different things, right? Been on the sidelines at bowl games, was the ball boy for Dan Marino when he was at the University of Pittsburgh, right? It's one of my favorite things in my home is have a signed poster that they only made 100 of with Dan Marino and his linemen. And so I've been around sports my entire life. Here's how we now want to cycle it back and think about how does it react to AI? Think of all the analytics in sports. Think about Chris's presentation, and I caught the tail end of it. I'm glad that we're recording it because I want to catch it all. But here's one of the things that you might have heard. Towards the end, maybe the mic went in and out a little bit. Did you all hear that? Just went in and out a little bit. No big deal. Here's how cool AI is. Our team here from Walk West is not going to panic about that. They're going to run all the sound through an AI simulation tool. It's going to bring it up to the best level. It literally doesn't matter. For the quality of the output that we send in the snippets so that Scott Insurance can share what they did today and bringing you all today, all of those things are happening around us, and we don't even fully understand the ramifications of everything we see and we hear. As I now get into our presentation and our conversation, I'm going to talk for a little bit, but I want you to use the pads and pen in front of you. And anytime you have a question, write it down. What my biggest gift to you could be is that because of my role, I just recently rolled off the board of ECU Health, $2 billion healthcare system. I've been working in healthcare and seeing how they're managing technology. I sit on the board of Easter Seals, which is a $150 million nonprofit. They serve 20,000 lives in North Carolina. And I didn't know that until I served on the board, but a very, very big business in terms of technology and infrastructure, right? I talked to you a little bit about Walk West. My day job is I'm the managing director for workplace options for the Center of Organizational Excellence. And so it takes my background as a student, as a coach, as a son of a coach, and I do that with business leaders on a global basis. The reason I'm excited about that is I have a lot of points of view, not necessarily the knowledge I have, but things I'm seeing and the way businesses are adopting AI, the way businesses are making leadership decisions, the way businesses are looking at whether they're going hybrid or not. And so I would recommend, and this may be a little bit on the ego side, you write down your questions and ask them and get as much free consulting as you can. Because number one, people with knowledge love to share it. I'm guilty, right? They love to show you that they got the mental goods, right? Number one. And so because I want people to gain value. But number two, it just makes good sense if I'm working with all these different companies to get some of the questions you may have, whether it's AI or business trends while we're here. Final thing before I get into the meat of the presentation. And I'll do that pretty quickly because I do like to get to the interactive point a little bit. The final thing that I'll tell you as we think about artificial intelligence and we think about business and growth, I sat with someone and they said, well, Don, do you think AI is a fad? And it's scary if you think that. And then I got to answer the question. I say all these thought bubbles in my head that I've learned that it is financially productive for me not to say everything I think. That was somebody was asking me, the question people ask all the time, what would you tell your younger self? And I had to tell myself, like, shut up. People don't want to know your truth. Let them ask 3 or 4 times before you give them, give people bite sizes of truth, right? Because I was creating enemies because I just wanted to tell it to people straight. And they didn't like it. They didn't want to hear it. And so now I put flowers on things. And so I'm also a florist. I'm a conversational florist. So here's the thing that I would leave you with. When you think about artificial intelligence, and I do have folks that are asking me about how much they should invest in it, how important is it, does it affect my industry? I ask them questions before I even answer it. I said, do you understand how much money Google, Apple, and these major tech platforms are investing in this space? I don't know exactly, but I know that it's a lot. So think about collectively trillions of dollars. And so then you have to step back and say, wait a minute, there's certain things in life where there's knowledge layers and there's knowledge levels, right? So one of the things in technology is I don't assume that I have all of the knowledge levels that I need. So I watch people that have 10 to 15 to 20% higher knowledge levels, and I'm watching what they do. I'm listening to a good friend of mine, his name is Brian, who was a former very senior development leader at Google. He's since left in different things. And here's what he said. He's a computer science major, Park Scholar at NC State, business partner of mine, scary smart is really the background, right? He could just put that on his resume, you'd meet him and it would work. He said, Don, I've been writing code for decades, and AI is almost as good as I was coming out of school, and it's only getting better. I'm scared for the next generation and how they're going to survive if they don't understand how AI is changing the game. I'm not concerned because I'm now managing technology people. I'm managing technology strategy. AI is not going to do that for companies initially. But if you look at the first layer of work that people are doing, AI is going to disrupt that and already has. There's a company that we're working with that all of you probably do some level of a business with, but I won't name drop for fear of lawsuits and it's just inappropriate. But they laid off thousands of people that were working in a department and replaced it completely with AI. Here's the thing they didn't understand, is it scared the other 30,000 people, and they lost a tremendous amount of productivity that they didn't fully understand for the line of sight productivity that they could get with the technology. And so one of the things we'll talk a lot about is AI adoption. And so hopefully with my background, with a little bit of a primer on AI, we're at a point to where there's a good use case, right, for your time for us to talk together. The other thing that I'll tell you, and then we'll kind of dive in, enough about me, and I covered these slides, I'm going to get right to it, is I'm a work in progress. So I'm going to say some ums and ahs. I enjoy speaking in public for a little bit, but anybody that knows me well is I'm a stone cold introvert. And people are like, no, man, you're lying. All right, I'll tell you this story. I'm telling you this one story. This is good. But then I'll be completely relaxed, and then I'll go, because I still get nervous every time I do it. And someone asked, well, why do you still get nervous? And that was when I was playing football, when I signed my scholar, all the things. It's because of how much I care. I want to do a really, really good job for anyone that I interact with. And so those bubbles are because I want to make sure I get it right for the folks that trusted me and your time. And so if I have any flubs or different things, I'll talk through it and push through it. But that's where I'm coming from. So I'm ready to go on the stage. Maybe there's 1,000 people going to be at this meeting. So we do a prep meeting, all of the speakers, maybe 2 to 3 weeks before the thing. And the leader says, go around and tell everyone something about yourself. You wouldn't be on LinkedIn that you wouldn't know and different things like that. So people shared their hobby. They just shared different things. It was just a cool moment, right? And I'm feeling like this is a psychologically safe space. I'm like, cool, I don't, because if you meet me, like if you sit across from me in business or you hear me talk or listen, I got this money I'm trying to make. You know what I mean? Like I'm not looking for the psychologically safe moment. I'm not thinking emotively about how I care. It's like how I win, how I grow, just the way my mind works. But I'm in this meeting and people are sharing and I'm like, I'm gonna share. I was going to say something superficial or else, but I'm going to share. So it gets to my point. I said, independent of my personal persona and different things like that and the branding and what I do for a living, I'm very much an introvert and like to keep to myself. And I get energy from time to myself and reading and different things. And that's how I recharge. And the person in the session, who's a friend of mine, goes, "Hey man, this part wasn't for lies." He's like, "Don, I've known you for 10 years. And he said, there's no definition of you introvert." And I was like, "Well, I shall not share again." Now, my stories have a meaning, and I promise you they do. I just told you vulnerably of something that even as a very strong, high energetic, highly functioning business leader, right? In terms of the way I think about myself, my mental health, well-being, my ability to succeed in the marketplace. I opened myself up to something. It didn't go right. I pulled back into my shell, right? I want you to think about your teams in AI. The fear is real. The fear of it is very real. So if you as a business leader ignore talking about it, ignore thinking about it, don't build out a strategy to where people know how they fit into it, I'm here to tell you they're going back into a shell and you're not getting good information about how it could actually work best in your organization. So as we talk about technology, we want to make sure we talk about the people side. 5 strategic things when you're thinking about artificial intelligence. And we'll go high level and then we'll dig into some of the tools and different things of that nature. So 1, education matters. When you're educated about something, you're more comfortable talking about it. When you're educated about something, you start to learn what to fear and what not to fear. And that's super important in business because a lot of times we create this false narrative, right, of we're no fear warriors and all this stuff. And it's just not true. And it's just not true. Any business that's made up of people is fear, anxiety, uncertainty, doubt of what the future looks like and what the future looks like for them. And so instead of trying to adapt to that fear, you want to look at what quenches that fear thirst, which is knowledge. So we do a lot of AI adoption training. And so let's say, for example, let me give you an example. Let's say we're talking to a group of HR leaders and they're thinking about AI and how it disrupts their job. Number 1, if it makes you faster, more functional, so you can think more strategic, then AI makes you better. So we talk to them about that standpoint. Most employees have employee handbooks that they're trying to keep up to date. AI is beautiful for that. So what we do is we educate and then we start to experiment with very small use cases where people can see immediate value. So again, if you educate me about something and then I experience value, now all of a sudden you're developing momentum with me. You're not sales pitching me. You're not beating me over the head with it, right? All you're doing is walking me down an information highway in a manner that I can accept it. I was talking with a sales professional the other day, and I love talking to very successful salespeople because they know the only thing they have is time. And I was talking to this sales professional about why AI mattered to them, right? And we had 30 minutes on the schedule. And the salesperson was like, "Don, it's great to meet you. I want to just go ahead and wire us for success in the calls," like my kind of people. Wire us for success in the call. I was like, cool. And so we started talking. He said, "Listen, right now I'm using AI just to do a couple things. So I don't really understand how it matters to me as a sales leader at this moment." And I was like, number 1, I appreciate the directness and the candor. I said, number 2, let me give a couple of thoughts. How long is your sales cycle? He said 12 to 18 months. So that means you put a lot of time, effort, energy, cost of really corralling this customer, learning their team, all the different things. So it would suck to lose and not know why right after 12 months. He was like, "Yeah." I said, "Do you understand that your proposal is going to an AI machine at your client, counterbalanced against 4 other proposals like yours? And if you don't understand what the machine says about you, you might have a challenge." He said, "That makes a lot of sense." I said, "You're in the relationship business." He said, "Yep." I said, "Do you form better relationships the more you know people?" He said, "Yeah." "What about using AI for research on the company so that you actually speak knowledgeable? When you have a 30-minute call with the CEO, you don't spend the first 7 minutes of every call asking how you do, what you're into, tell me about your company." When I hear that right now, I immediately discount the quality of that sales leader because most information about me, my company, my needs is public. And if you were intentional enough to do the research, use an AI tool about me as an individual, you'd not only know my company, you know where I went to school, you would know that I wrote a book, you would know me, and then we could spend the full 30 minutes talking about how you can help me. Now, because I created an educational pathway of how to make that salesperson better, then our conversation, the last 20 minutes, we did this in the first 10 minutes. The final 20 minutes was about questions. And we actually were highly productive in that 30-minute conversation. And so when we think about artificial intelligence, don't think about the technology of it. That's actually the easy part. That's actually the easy part. The hard part is getting people to change in a meaningful way with pace, because most people are allergic to change. If you go into your car, and I don't want to presume, but this looks like an audience where everybody's got reasonably newer cars, right? I'm just going to make that assumption. If you don't, my bad. Right? You might be saving, doesn't matter why, just it's not going to hit you the same way, right? But most of us have pre-programmed stations on our dashboard. Is that fair enough, right? With radio or Sirius XM or whatever things you're using. Now ask yourself, how often have you changed those pre-programs? I mean, sit with that for a minute. Literally, when you get in your car, sit with that a little bit. That means we don't like change. We're not actually interested in change. I have 3 or 4 political stations I listen to, 2 or 3 business stations I listen to, 2 or 3 hip hop. Yes, I'm still cool, right? I still listen to Shady 45. Come on now. Let's understand who we're talking to now. I still got it. I can do the wobble wobble listens anyway. But we don't change them much. So that means when we're talking about these new things, we've got to get the education right to encourage people why to change, because people will change when they see the personal benefit, not the corporate benefit. People will change when they see the personal benefit. So I went to an event at UNC, this was about a year ago, and Julius Peppers was being honored he was in the Hall of Fame and then also the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And my dad coached Julius Peppers from freshman all the way through when he left. And so we were invited to these things, and then we went to Vegas and we're at his table at the ceremony for the College Football Hall of Fame. And here's why I'm telling you this is cool. So while I'm flying with my dad, I'm always asking him questions, because coaching and business and leadership, and Coach Davis will talk a lot they're very similar, not same, but there's a lot of similarities, right? But I asked my dad, I said, Dad, what's the difference between, young folks are all talented, right? What's the difference between the ones that go to the NFL, first round draft choice? And there was a period of time where 3 years in a row, my dad had #1 draft choices at his position. He was a good football coach. Make it to the NFL, #1 draft choices, and then gold jackets. Another gold jacket, and you might not know this football-wise, but a guy named Chris Dolman played for the Minnesota Vikings. My dad coached him at the University of Pittsburgh. So I've been around this stuff, just sports all my life. But here's the point. This isn't a sports point, it's a business point. I said, Dad, what's the difference between those that get to the pro level and those that are the best to ever do it? He said, 2 things. He said, 1, they're willing to do things they don't fully understand for the outcome that they want. That makes them more coachable. So number 1. And then number 2, they love the work as much as they love the limelight, because they know without the work, there is no limelight. And those are people that you can coach. Here's the thing. Don't try to adopt every person in your organization. Find the ones that want to help you transform it first. And I'm trying to bring the stories into the nuggets of what I think you all need to consider. I don't know what you should do, right? Because I don't know your business well enough and all the things, but what you should consider. So people have AI task force and different things. I don't really love the word task force. Just find people that are AI curious and load them up with tools, give them some experimentation projects, and then things that they find, highlight to the team they're learning. Because that peer communication is going to be stronger than top down, right? And so that's another thing that we're finding with AI adoption in organization. Then when you execute, you want to do small pilots so that the risk of failure doesn't impact today's business. Those of you that have strong technology businesses, infrastructure, and different things, you'll understand this, or your IT folks understand the construct of a sandbox. The sandbox is where you play with the new technologies that have no risk to the current way you're doing business. And you take these experimental projects and you run it in a sandbox. You run a simulation on 2-year-old data, decisions that you made in the past, and what would the decision process have been if we had leveraged artificial intelligence. So you're not taking any commercial risk, but you're preparing for the future, which is de-risking the future. And so we have a package where we work with folks in doing that. There's a lot of ethical concerns with AI. How do I deal with customer data? How do I deal with bias in AI? And these things are all very, very real and should not be ignored. When I ask AI early on before I train mine, I'll talk about that in a minute, show me the perspective of a business leader, give me an image, XYZ. It always shows a middle-aged white man. Now, if you understand prompt engineering, then you just add the word, show me a collection of business owners from varied backgrounds. That simple statement reduces its inherent bias. Why does AI have inherent bias? Who built the machines? What do they look like? What schools do they go to? Doesn't make them bad actors. It simply means it is what it is. I'm an emeritus member of the Strategic Advisory Board for Computer Science at NC State. And one of the times we had Steve Wozniak, the co-founder of Apple, that came in and did some speaking and different things. Do anybody have the Apple card? Well, Steve, co-founder of Apple, he and his wife, all their assets are shared. He said, we do not have separate assets. They each applied for the card. He came back with a higher balance than his wife. He was very upset. But there was bias in the machine. And so when you think about AI and how you implement it, think about ways that you can understand prompt engineering and different things so you can manage bias as a process, but don't let that ethical lens keep you from taking the strategic business lens. Most of us are capable of walking and chewing gum at the same time. We can think about the environmental impact, the ethical impact, while we're looking at the commercial impact. We can do two things at once, but we don't want to leave any of those on the table. And then the economic value. The economic value is pretty intense in that it allows you to, it's almost like magic. I was talking with a business leader the other day, and they gave me a challenge, something that they wanted me to think on. And they gave me like 2 years worth of data on their leadership team and the different 360 degrees and all the things they've had, just a lot of data. And in under 2 hours, I was able to use AI and crunch that data and then create learning paths across an executive team of about 13 folks. I did in 2 hours work that would have taken a consulting team 30, 40, 60 hours. And so the speed of change, and here's the thing that I will accelerate to you, and then we'll get ready for some questions and just any other feedback, is that I highly encourage prompt engineering certification for any business leader that is using AI tools. And what is prompt engineering? I don't want to throw out phrases, but I want to be really, really specific. It teaches you how to talk to the machine. I'm on marriage number 2. This one, death do us part. I'm doing reading, training. I'm doing good. Like Jackie and I've been married, and Jason, good to see you. You know, my beautiful bride. We talk and grow all the time. We're on year 6. And she is one of my writing partners, and another gentleman named Bob Batchelor. And Bob and Jackie, between the two of them, I have really a world-class writing team. Help me with my book. We help companies with thought leadership, things of that nature. But here's why I'm bringing the two of them up. They're both phenomenal at building content for commercial organizations, thought leadership content, research content. Bob is a PhD in communications, right? He currently is professor at Coastal Carolina and written millions of words, 15 books. Anybody remember the show Mad Men? He wrote a book on that. Everybody familiar with Marvel? He wrote the autobiography of Stan Lee and around the Marvel universe. He's a world-renowned author. You would think he wouldn't be excited about AI. The reason I use this use case is everything's flipping on its head. The people you think wouldn't be for it actually are seeing it as a career-enhancing tool because it makes them faster and their expertise even stronger. And so one of the things that Bob and myself and Jackie have done is we've gone through our training and different things. If you take an hour a day from here, let's just say I help you be more curious. Right? Number 1, the free versions are trash. You're not using AI if you're using the free versions. Pay the $20 a month. Just pay it. Just trust me. Just pay it. It's month to month. You can try it, not like it. But they're built as a teaser. They're not built for you to actually see the full performance of the tool. Right? So number 1, get the paid versions. Number 2, even if you don't get certified, really start studying up on what prompt engineering is. So this is back to Bob and to they've probably shaved 30, 40% of the time off of everything they do in a content path. And in one of the teams we're working on, we're looking to hire a couple of new folks. And here's what's changing. We're not even talking to people that are not AI fluent or curious enough to get the certification and drive forward. If you were looking for a strategic advantage, if you're a CFO, a COO, XYZ, think about the amount of time it takes you to close your books. Think about the amount of time it takes you to analyze an M&A transaction. Think about the amount of time it takes you to vet 32 candidates for an executive role. If you're not using AI to automate those processes and give you first level impact, you're slower. And here's the thing about business and sports and life, speed matters. And so these are things that when I talk to people about AI and AI adoption to really get them thinking and thinking through. The other thing that I would tell you, and just throw some numbers here, 97% of senior business leaders whose companies are leveraging AI report positive results from their investment. 75% of executives plan to invest more than $25 million a year. I don't know what your story is technology in your business. That's not for me to say. But you should think about how AI fits in, who you should be working on to bring in, or who you should be training within the organization. Some people get somebody that can go train the trainers. But I highly recommend that we move with some reasonable pace to get there. Talked about that already. Last couple of statements, and then I'll open it up for questions because I want to be thoughtful, Matt, of time, and I can get going. I look at my watch for those things. We can't outrun kind of our past experiences, but think about a tool. Here's the analogy I want to use. How many folks cut their own grass? Just raise your hand if you do. How many folks have somebody cut their grass? And this isn't a judgment zone. There's just two ways to think about it. So right now I'm talking to the folks that cut their own grass. You cut your own grass, because you enjoy. I'll tell one other story about my dad in coaching. So he was at East Carolina before he was at Carolina. And he had 2 days, and I had 2 days at Greenville Rose High School. And this dude decides he still wants to put in new grass. So at 5 o'clock in the morning, before each one gets to practice, we're going to a neighbor who's got like an acre, and they've got this zoysia grass, this awesome grass, and we're getting plugs with flashlights. Then we're going and putting down the grass, turning the water on, then we each go to practice. That is why I do not cut my own grass. I know how to. I can work the machine. I can change the spark plug in it. I got you. I'm not going to do it. And so growing up, son of a football coach had its advantages, but it also had some PTSD. I remember when I used to go to the training camp when they were at the University of Pittsburgh, that we could go as long as we were willing to work. And so I worked with the equipment people and washed the clothes and stuff like that. As long as we had a job, we could hang out with the team and different things like that. Here's the reason I bring this up and come back to adoption. On a football team, everybody has a job and everybody has a role. And one of the things the equipment guy said, even before I went in the equipment room, is if a guy has wet socks, that's not healthy for him. You could create something that's not important. So you make sure the socks are dry before you put them in the thing. The helmets, the guys take pride in the way their helmet looks, the way it fits. And so you need to get to know the different players on the side of the lockers you're responsible for and understand any quirks. Because when they get out on their field, we don't want anything about their equipment to distract them from doing what we need to do to get to a bowl game, to get whatever. I was assigned a job. Now watch this. But they did a good job of assigning me a job and telling me the meaning of that job to the big picture, even though I was the ball boy. You have to teach people what AI means to their job, what they mean to the company, that AI is not here to replace them. If we upskill you in this arena, we're going to make you more valuable here at our company and more valuable for you career-wise, whatever you should do in the future. You've got to link what you're asking them to change to their personal motivation and then to the motivation for the organization and to the business. And that is a super important component as we think about the things of this nature. People a lot of times ask which platform, right? Perplexity, Chat, Gemini, all the different things. I'm not a proponent of anyone in particular, right? Our team of 25 folks at Walk West, our boutique agency, have taken over 100 different certifications collectively, right? We have some work that we do, but we're very fine with Coursera. There's a lot of free stuff out there. There's a lot of good stuff out there. So we're not really trying to say that we have the best and only education. We want to encourage and be ambassadors that people get that education. Where we want to be a value add is helping you in how to use it and implement it in a powerful way in your business and your marketing and your growth, all that stuff. If you're not afraid of AI, you should be. And I want to leave you with this. It doesn't sound super positive. I'm not smiling when I'm saying it. If your competitor is faster than you in this regard, it's going to be a challenge to compete in anything that you're doing. And you believing that is not really the debate. It's how are you going to take advantage of something that's truly revolutionizing business as we even know it. And it's just that big a deal, and I'm that big a proponent.
Thank you for joining us on High Octane Leadership with Donald Thompson. Today's episode is a step in our collective journey towards leadership excellence. Remember, every story we share and every insight we gain is a piece in the puzzle of our leadership journey. For more insight and detail, hit the subscribe button so that we can stay connected. For deeper information and more episodes, go to donaldthompson.com. Continue to lead with vision and purpose, and until we meet again, embrace your role as a high-octane leader in the ever-evolving world of business.